And I thought to myself, this is what working smart and working hard actually looks like. But the problem was there was a limit.
Today's Master Series event, as you know, 2 years ago, we asked what was the most valuable thing we could be doing to add value to our agents' business, and that was the creation of the Master Series. Now, we do not do this alone, so we are blessed to have incredible power partners along the way that help bring us these incredible events. And so today, I'm going to open it up to our power partners, Fidelity National Home Warranty. Betty Carter, are you with us?
I am with you. Good morning. Well, we're going to be very quick this morning. I want to introduce our attendees. We have with us Lisa Justison, who handles the Southern Oregon area, Kevin Wyans, who covers East Portland, Vancouver, Eugene, and the Willamette Valley. And Andrea could not be with us today. She says hello. Andrea covers West Portland, Salem, Bend, and Central Oregon. So we launched our new product back in January, which typically is a great time for a launch. Our reps have time to get into the offices and get all their product out there, have meetings. Not so much this year. So we just wanted to give you a couple of quick reminders to look for our new brochure, and that we have rekey. So when the buyer moves in, they can get their house rekeyed. We also have HVAC tune-up so they can keep their HVAC equipment in good shape. Lisa and Kevin are going to give you a little bit more information, but I did want to let you know our intent is to be your partners and to bring you information of value. So if there's anything that you want to hear about in the future, please be sure to reach out to one of us or Leslie so that we can make sure we're bringing you the information that you want to hear. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa for a quick update.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's really nice to be back with you all again. So this morning, I'm going to talk briefly about E&O insurance. So you might be wondering, wait a minute, isn't she home warranty? What is she going to be talking about E&O insurance for? Well, you may be surprised to know that there can be a connection between us. And that connection is that many E&O companies will reduce the premium and your deductible if there's a home warranty on a transaction. So you might ask yourself, well, why would they do that? Well, simply put, it can lower their risk. And it can lower their risk because many times E&O claims can be totally avoided if there's a home warranty along with a home inspection on that transaction. So as you guys know, hopefully by now, we are your partners, like Betty said. We're always looking out to make sure your clients are well cared for, but at the same time, we're always looking out to protect you and to make you guys look good to your clients. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my partner, Kevin.
Good morning, everybody. And yeah, just like what Lisa was saying, we want to break the chain between the seller and the buyer. And a lot of times warranties can do that because the last thing you want to do is get an angry buyer and blaming you and blaming the seller. And so the warranty does come in handy because it separates that. They're going to call us when something breaks, not you or the brokerage or anything like that. So just know we're there. Please keep in mind of all of our nice add-ons that we've done this year. Betty touched on some of them, but the real popular ones are the rekey and the preseason tune-up for the heating and air conditioning. So thank you so much, and give us a call with any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And now for the main event, we are going to turn this over to Chris himself. And of course, welcome Mr. Ben Kinney to the call.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Leslie. Thank you, guys. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do something a little bit different. I thought I'd start today's session by just having a conversation with Ben. I don't actually, I've actually never done this, Ben, but I wanted to ask you maybe just a few questions before you jump in. Ben and I were talking actually earlier this week, and he put something together for some in the leadership of our organization around focus and time and how critical that is for all of us heading into 2021. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you some questions, Ben, because we have a group of agents on this call that range from they started yesterday, like literally, right? Got their license, they're jumping in, they're real estate agents. And we have agents on this call that are running $1 million businesses as well, right? This wide range of agents. And the reality is, over the last decade, you have been both of those, right? Like, you started right at the beginning. Many people sort of know you for who you have become or who you are right now in the industry. But I wanted to take us back and not get too deep in the weeds, but what year did you start in real estate, Ben? Like, when did you get in the business?
I started part-time in 2004. I was still working at the cable company, as some people know, in 2004, and I worked full-time until I saved up enough money that I had enough guts to quit my corporate job and my health care and my free cable and internet, and take a risk on myself. And it took me about 6 months to do that.
Awesome. So there are some people that are right there with you, right? They're trying to transition out of a previous career, a previous job, and they have their real estate license. You said it took you 6 months. What happened in those 6 months? What led you to that point where you took that risk or you took that jump?
A few things. I had to get my first deal done, and it was $137,500, and it was a normal first deal for everybody. It was a referral from a friend I went to college with, and then I had to build up enough of a pipeline. Not that I knew how much money I had today, but I knew how much money I had coming in for the next couple months. So I saved up, probably back then, 4 or 5 months of reserves, and from my commissions, I just lived really, really cheap for a while. And then I knew that I had a couple deals pending, enough to get me by again for another couple months. And that just gave me the confidence to bet on myself.
I think everyone needs to get to that place where they recognize that what they've done once or twice can be done again, and have the confidence or self-confidence that that what they did in month 1 or month 3 or month 6 or in that first 6 months, they're going to repeat. What, as you look at what you did pre-real estate and what you were doing in real estate in those first 6 months, what did you bring with you? Like, what skill set do you think you brought from a previous job to the new one that contributed to that success?
I left my metabolism with Comcast, but I brought with me a lack of fear of rejection. I installed cable TV, and then I took a promotion in my mind to a commission only job of selling cable TV and internet door to door. And I think in my career at the cable company, Chris, I knocked about 40,000 doors trying to convince people to get cable hooked up, or switch from satellite TV, or switch their phone service, which was 25 cents cheaper to move to us, only 25 cents. And I probably cold called, I don't know, 250,000 people. I called every single day and knocked every single day for 6 or 7 years straight. It adds up, right? And I've got the FUs and the door slams and the rejection and you're the idiot, and a couple people answered the door naked, and I knocked over somebody's bong once. Like, everything in that experience had already happened to me, and there was nothing left for me to fear, except there was one major difference. I did all those activities every single day to make a couple $100. If I got 3, 4, 5 sales, I made a couple $100, and per hour, it was awesome. And I did the same exact thing in real estate, right? And you get a $10,000 check. I thought I won the freaking lottery. Like, this is the greatest hidden secret of any job out there, except for, I think, selling drugs or starting a cult. Like, this is the highest paying job that you can legally do with minimal experience and just a little bit of guts.
Yeah, and I would argue you probably make more money in real estate than you ever would of selling drugs or the alternative, Ben. But let me go back to something, because you worked really hard at the cable company. Yes. I mean, you were forced to, you had to, like as an employee, non-commission, you had to. And then second, as a commission person, like you had to, because there was no check coming in. You and I recently talked about a book that we read around and about Naval Ravikant. And his message, right, consistently has been hard work is critical, and yet it's not the most important thing. And I think you learned that at the cable company. Like hard work, cable company or real estate was not the most important thing. What you began to do in real estate is work with the right people, doing the right thing, and then applying the hard work. Like he says, hard work is fifth or sixth most important on the way to success. Like arguably, you would have never been, regardless of how hard you work, you would have never been you'd have never reached your definition of success at the cable company with all the hard work, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years in. You changed what you did with who you were doing it with and then applied the hard work. Anything you'd add to that?
No, let me tell you a little story, because I think that's exactly true. Like hard work plus working smart gives you this compounding effect of results. And in the beginning, Chris, at the cable company, I would go out and knock doors because they called it the door-to-door team, and I thought everybody had to knock doors. And I was just in better shape back then than the other guys, and I could just outwalk people and out-knock people and outwork people. So they were getting 1 or 2 sales a day. I was getting 2 or 3, and I just outworked them. One day, I thought about something, and I let everybody else leave the office, and I stayed at my desk. And Comcast had this big database of phone numbers. And I thought to myself, I can knock 50 or 100 doors a day. I can probably call 300 to 500. So that day I didn't knock. That day I just picked up the phone and then I called people. And I spent 3 or 4 hours setting appointments. And I went out for the rest of the night and I installed them myself because I didn't get paid until I installed them. And then I started closing 3 sales a day, 4 sales a day, 5 sales a day. I realized that calling was just simply more efficient than door knocking. And then I started thinking, as I called all these people, I got a lot of responses. I can't afford it. I already have it. I used to have it. I use a competitor. Or I've already ordered it and it's being installed. And I thought to myself, these people are calling somebody else other than me to get their cable. They're calling the 1888 Comcast number or whatever, and they're not calling me. And I thought to myself, at what point do they decide to order cable? It's not when you live there for 5 years. It's when you're moving in. So I got on my little nerdy computer, weighed 74 pounds, and I typed up myself a utility sheet for the community. Here's the water, here's the sewer, here's the post office, here's the garbage. And I made everything you could imagine, PUD, all these different things. And then where it said cable and phone, I just switched the number to my cell phone. Then on the top of each sheet, I left this gap this big, and I got the company's logos from every property management company in town and every real estate company and every apartment building. And I got their logo and I copied it like the copy machine. You cut it and then you lay it out, because back then you couldn't do the computer stuff, right? And I photocopied it. Then I brought it over to like Kinko's and had it printed on really nice paper. And then I started driving to all these apartment buildings, property managers, real estate offices. And I said, hey, I'm the appointed person from Comcast. I've been sent out here to give you these utility sheets because you guys are working directly with us locally instead of the call center that nobody ever gets through. What happens is you're going to get a local contact. We're going to be able to give your new renters, your new homeowners discounted install, faster service, and a direct person to talk to. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. We've been so frustrated. And I started getting 8 sales a day and 10 sales a day. And by 21 years old, I was going to college at Western Washington University, working for the cable company. And I got a 2-week check, Chris, in September. And it was about $16,000 for 2 weeks. That was the most money that I had ever seen. My mom didn't make any money. My dad didn't make any money. Their combined income was probably $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And I thought to myself, this is what working smart and working hard actually looks like. But the problem was there was a limit. corporate America puts a limit on you. In fact, they laid me off 2 or 3 times in my short, 6, 7, 8 years that I worked with them, because they wanted to change the stock price, and they had complete control over my destiny. And I loved the job. I was good at it and made good money, but I didn't want to put my future in the hands of somebody on the East Coast that was trying to affect the stock price, and never got the time to meet Ben.
Hmm. What I hear, Ben, and I think your business career is a testament to this, is when you looked at the problem that you had, instead of dealing with it the way that everybody else dealt with it, you went upstream, right? That's a really popular word right now, because Dan Heath's new book, Upstream, came out, and we've talked about that. We've shared it with our organization. And instead of dealing with a child that's in the river, right, drowning, child after child after child after child that's floating downstream, and you're thinking something's wrong, all I do is deal with this problem. All I do is sell cable to this family that I'm knocking on, or this family that I'm calling. You went upstream and said, gosh, there's a guy throwing kids in the river. You went upstream and said, well, what is the first point of contact that they might have to make a decision? Let's go up to that problem and solve that problem for people, such that they float downstream and find you, right? When you walk back downstream, then actually that problem is solved. And I think for all of us in our businesses, there's so many different ways to get in front of a buyer, and so many different ways to get in front of a seller. We just keep doing it the same way instead of going upstream. Same thing with the brokerage community, right? We were solving the same problem the same way that everybody did, and you just began to think about it differently. And I appreciate that. That's a huge lesson for all of us to learn. Let me ask you maybe one or two other questions, and I want you to have a conversation around specifically what we could do now to begin building truly like any size business, because you've done that. You started that way. You eventually built, right, the number one real estate business, and I know you don't love the word team, right? The number one real estate business within the Keller Williams ecosystem, and one of the things that I have been so impressed with about your business organization, when I went up to Bellingham the first time, and when you and I started collaborating and talking maybe 6 years ago, I was shocked at how lean your organization was. A lot of times people think, well, gosh, you sell a lot of homes, but you have like 50 people out there selling homes, and you have the staff of 10, 11, 12 people. And it just, I don't want a big business. Like, you had a big business with a small organization. What has been the key to keeping a lean, small organization while building a big business?
Yeah, I think, you asked about earlier when you first got started in real estate. I spent a lot of time then just trying to prove to myself that I could do it. I lacked confidence, and I had to get results before I could create that confidence. And then I went through a cycle because of my childhood and everybody doubting me, and the poverty and the drugs and stuff from my parents. Like, I went through this period, and I call it my ugly years, Chris, where I wanted everybody else to know that I had made it. And I think that was when you saw me speaking more, teaching, or doing those sort of things. And I just wanted people, I didn't want to brag, but I wanted you guys to know that I worked hard and I figured it out. And I was doing it to fuel my ego. And after a while, people move from trying to prove it to themselves into trying to prove it to everybody else that they did it, into the final stage of leadership, which is trying to prove that everybody else can do it too. And I think you're a great example of somebody that lives in that third quadrant of trying to not brag about what we've done, but show people that they can do it too, because Chris isn't that bright and Ben isn't that bright. What we have is a commitment and a work ethic and a passion for learning and trying new things. Well, in my journey, I transitioned from wanting trophies and awards and recognition to wanting the one thing that would give me and my future family and my life stability and security, which is profit. And I actually stopped caring about what rank we were or how we were doing or who was number one or number two. And I started focusing on the one thing that matters, what percentage of my income do I get to keep at the end of the year? And what can I do with that money to invest it to build more security and more passive income for myself? And when you do that, Chris, you don't make all the decisions that other people do. You aren't taking a bajillion selfies. You aren't buying billboards and radio, and you aren't doing like all this crazy stuff just to get more and more units. You're focusing on how much money can I make per hour, and then what can I do with that money? And because of that, it forces you to run a lean organization, because you're not focused on being number one or trophies or units. You can't. I went into a hamburger place the other day, Chris, and I walked up and I said, I have this trophy for being number one. Can I trade that for a burger? And nobody in the place would give me a burger. Like, you can't. I said, well, I have a whole bunch of listings. Would you give me a burger for some of my listings? And they wouldn't give it to me. I had pendings and they wouldn't give me a burger for my pendings. The only thing that allowed me to buy a burger was my closings, and only after I paid my expenses. Right. And you know me, I like burgers. So I want to buy a lot of burgers, and I need that profit to do that. And it just changed my focus, and it changed my whole perspective. What was additionally interesting about that, Chris, is I started thinking, I don't just want that for myself. I want people that want that too. So I started telling everybody that my goal was to create 10 millionaires. And what was funny, after 4 or 5 years of telling people that, I just stopped putting the number on it, because I had so many people that were already on track. My first assistant that started at $13 an hour, Jolene, is on her 7th home that she owns, right? Owns, right? Didn't sell any of the other ones, still owns it. So many of my people have already surpassed that millionaire mark that I just stopped counting. And now I just focus on how do we help our people win so that they make millions, so that they can give money away when people need it, when they have the catastrophes that so many of you in Oregon have had to deal with over the last year, or so many of our friends and small businesses that are dealing with this year with all the chaos and the plague, the zombie thing that we're going through, just all that stuff. That's what having a great business can do for you.
What's the side benefit of that, Ben, being focused on profit? And this is something that Gary actually said, probably said to you, he said to me, he said, your profit will be your competitive advantage. And the reason, right, and that's why we focus on helping our agents build profitable businesses, not just big businesses, is that as you are more profitable, you attract incredible talent. And I look around your organization, you have some of the most talented people in the industry, and that's because they know that you help them grow, and that profitability becomes their profitability as well, and that helps them build these awesome lives. You know, you've been a mission-driven human since I met you, right? And you know, I self-proclaim, say, when I first met you, I didn't like you, and then I got to know you, and you're growing on me. But you said your company mission was to deliver the dream of home ownership everywhere, and that's because you truly believe that there is wealth building in home ownership. And you know, I think that all of us are part of an industry that honestly we can change people's wealth trajectories and their family trajectories. You and I have been products of that for sure, right? Our lives look very different, and they could have looked wildly different and not ideal and awesome through this industry. So let's dial it all the way back, right? We kind of sort of know how you got there, and sort of the tenets that you've believed in and built from. But what I'd love for you to share today is maybe the building block of what you think may be the most important thing for each of us to do, building a habit now, October, November 2020, such that we have right our best, most profitable years in 2021. Why don't you walk us through what you've put together as sort of your building block, if you will, this year?
Yeah, and I think we can just kind of have a conversation through this together, Chris. You know, you're a mission-driven guy too. In fact, I'm even wearing the T-shirt that says "Delivering the dream of home ownership everywhere." You know, I wholeheartedly believe that's the only time Chris has ever seen me not wearing a vest right there. I wholeheartedly believe in home ownership. I believe it creates wealth. I believe it creates security and safety for families. I believe it improves neighborhoods and school districts. I believe it's the reason our country was actually founded. And it's so important to me that I talk to everybody about that. Because I talk to everybody about that, I find business and agents and opportunity everywhere, because I'm so passionate and excited about what real estate could do for people's lives. Chris kind of asked me to talk about productivity, and what is something that I could share with you, not some bullshit miracle morning thing, or like not some like thing, like what do you actually do every single, sorry, you guys are not used to me, like Chris doesn't swear, but I'm a little out of control, I apologize in advance. And you guys, if you're there and you're awake and you're having fun and you're enjoying this, just jump into the chat and say something, because it helps Chris and I to hear your guys' communications. Well, here's what I know, and you might want to write this down, or just pretend like you're writing it. Just move your hands or whatever. And what I know is success is guaranteed, not optional, not maybe, not it could. Success is guaranteed when priorities happen in the right order. So often, Chris, people have 10 priorities and they work on each one 1%, and they wake up in 6 months or a year and none of them are done. Our lives would be so much better if we simply worked on things in the right order. Here would be an example. David Goggins, a freak Navy SEAL, wrote a book, Can't Hurt Me. And when he wanted to get into the Navy, they said he weighed too much. In order for them to just get into boot camp, he had to lose 80 pounds. So he went home, Chris, and inside his bathroom, he wrote on a Post-it note on his mirror, not 80 pounds. He wrote 1 pound, because he knew that if he couldn't lose 1 pound, he couldn't lose 80. If you can't save $1, you aren't going to save 10. You aren't going to save 1,000. You aren't going to save 10,000. You aren't going to save 100,000. You aren't going to become a millionaire. If you can't time block for 15 minutes, you're never going to for 3 hours all day, right? If you keep a little tiny habit, right, consistently, you're not going to do any of them. So it's about picking what is the, as Gary and Jay would say, what is the first domino. And here's the thing that makes us all equal. Everybody gets the same number of minutes in an hour. What you do with them and how you invest them will ultimately determine what you get out of life. We all have the same amount of time. One of the most irritating things that people say to me, Chris, is they say, I know you're a really busy man, and I know your time is really valuable. And I just look them square in the eye and say, my time, I promise you, is no more valuable than yours. We all have the same amount of time every single day. Now you're choosing how you use yours, and I'm choosing how I use mine, but I always have time for you. Ask, call. I always make time for people. My time is no more valuable than theirs. Maybe what I do with it creates more value, but my time personally is not more valuable. I have this thought that there's a lot of power in 60 minutes. Not like the Sunday night show, right? Was that Tom Brokaw? I think not that. What is 60 minutes? 60 minutes of focus on something important to you every single day equals 45 full 8-hour workdays. Chris, that's 9 full weeks of work. Like, how much further would everybody on this call be if they had 9 extra weeks of work than their competition? Or if they had 9 full weeks of exercising 8 hours a day? Because that's what happens when you commit 1 hour a day, every day, to something that matters to you. The real secret is figuring out what is it that you need to commit to. What do you think?
Ben, let me ask you this. When you say that, I think some people are doing that, and how that shows up is it's 7 to 8 p.m. or it's 9 to 10 p.m. right? Or it's 11 to 12 p.m. They are adding hours to their day as opposed to focusing on the right hour or what to do in that hour. And then they get burned out and they believe the only way to succeed is more time. And then we've now created this circle back to just work harder. And so much of that is out there, right? We listen to podcasts and right, it's 10x your life or work harder or
Grind.
next.
You hear the grinders, people like, hey, you got to grind. You got to like sacrifice everything. No, it's a bunch of bullshit. They just don't actually understand how to focus on what matters first. They think time is equal to success. And it's just not. It's not.
So walk us through that. Talk to us about that 60-minute concept and how do we make sure, what do we need to do to grab that 60 minutes each day or that 1 hour each day?
There's a lot of people that are really successful on this call. I recognize names and hi everybody. And I'm going to ask you all to do two things. I'm going to ask you, one, to give 15 minutes a night to yourself. And I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. I call it my daily plan. And number two, I'm going to ask you to commit 1 hour a day to what's important to you. It doesn't have to be business, by the way. If it's getting your health figured out or getting your finances figured out or fixing your relationship or doesn't matter to me. I want you to commit 1 hour a day to what's most important to you. And if you can do that, you'll create lasting compounding change. But you have to say, I'm going to make the 60-minute a day part of my culture, a culture of my family, a culture of my business, a culture of my office, that I'm going to focus for 1 hour. And that's going to be a foundational piece of the culture of my business. You know, I did this exercise the other day with all of our partners, Chris, and I said, do me a favor. I want you to go into your CRM and I want you to select 50 leads and I want you to put them on the dialer. We have this built-in dialer in our CRM. And I want you to call those leads. And they said, what leads? And I said, I want you to take 50 leads that were already given to your agents that are in nurture, watch, or some status other than like hot. And I just want you to call them. And they said, then what? I said, at the end, I want you to report back to me three things. One, how long did it take you? What was the results? And what did you learn? And here's what we figured out. It took the vast majority of people 60 minutes to an hour and a half to call 50 leads. They talked to about 15 people. Of that, the average person got 3 to 5 appointments or referrals by simply spending a focused hour doing that. They found another 4 or 5 people that had already bought. The opportunities that slipped out the back door because the agents only called them once. And what they learned was that in 1 hour, they had made more productive calls than their agents had done the entire week prior. In 1 hour, they had scheduled more appointments with ready and willing buyers or sellers or got a referral to somebody else than their agents had done the previous entire week. And it shows you that just 1 hour, not even 1 hour a day, 1 hour focused can have dramatic results. Well, my belief is, Chris, that actually happens the night before. The night before, I want you to write this down. I'm going to give you all a 6-step plan to have the best tomorrow you've ever had. And I challenge you to try it for 1 week and then send me a text and just let me know how it worked. Just for 1 week. I want you to commit to say, all right, I'm going to believe this knucklehead, super pale, slightly chubby, ex-cable guy from Bellingham, Washington for 1 week, and I'm going to see how it makes me feel. And it starts the night before when you make a decision. Is tomorrow going to be something that happens to me? For a lot of people, money is something that happens to them, right? With a lot of people, tomorrow is something that happens to them. The weather is something that happens to them. All these different things are just things that happen to them. For me, tomorrow is a tool that I decide to use to move me one step closer to happiness, wealth, business success, finding mushrooms or getting my deer in the woods, all that redneck crap. You probably got a lot of vegetarians on this call. I apologize. I do pick a lot of mushrooms though. Not like the loopy ones, just like the regular ones, the edible ones. Okay, is tomorrow going to be something that happens to me? So I asked myself the question, what's tomorrow going to be for me? Is it going to push me forward or is it going to push me back? And once I have clarity that tomorrow I'm going to win, I commit to 15 minutes. And this is a very simple exercise. And once you get good at it, it's going to take you 5 minutes. So I'm just asking you, everybody, to please try giving yourself 10 or 15 minutes a night to do this one thing. If you can find 15 minutes to focus and think about tomorrow, here's what the research says. You guys write this down. It says that there's a 174% increase in productivity the following day. If you can find 15 minutes the night before to focus and think about tomorrow, there's a 174% increase in productivity tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, go into the chat. What do you think about that? If you could commit 15 minutes every night and be over 100% more productive, how would you feel the next day? Everybody, what do you say? Fantastic. Love it. Life-changing. Sold. I have 5 people that responded. Great. It can do that. That I can do. Mind blown. Awesome. Boom. That would be amazing. On it. Sign me up. Sing me in. Easy. That's awesome. I am in. Challenge accepted. Look at all 100%. Simple and powerful. Here's what I want you to know. I made that statistic up. It's probably actually much greater than that. But when I make it a statistic and make you write it down, you guys are going to believe this shit, right? And I made it kind of a cool statistic because I made it a 74, like a 174. If I would have said 100%, you goes, he made that up. No, but the 174, that's what got you guys. That's what got you to commit to it. That's what got you to think that this is actually going to happen because you want to be 174% more productive tomorrow. So step 1, write this down. You're going to visualize what winning looks like tomorrow. Now, Chris, this is the fluffiest, hardest part because most people don't like to visualize. What people like to do is they like to make a whole bunch of lists of tasks and dread about things that they have to get done. What I like to do is I like to think about at the end of the day tomorrow, if I came home and Chris was there and I walked up and I gave Chris a high five, what would have to happen for me to say, Chris, you know what? I killed it today. I freaking won. I won, Chris. Like I spent 8 hours at work and I won. Right? What would that have to be? And it's as simple as asking yourself, what is the most important thing that you could accomplish tomorrow? What would winning look like tomorrow? What needs to be completed tomorrow so that it's no longer a burden? What needs to be completed tomorrow so that it would make a difference in my life? And I sit back for a second and I visualize and I even write it down. Let me give you a few examples. If I'm working on a class, I visualize what it would feel like to have it done and how is it gonna go and who is it gonna help. If I need to hire somebody, a buyer's agent, an admin, a listing agent, an ops person, a team leader, an MCA, I do this thing where I visualize what would that person look like? What would that person act like? What would that person sound like, Chris? How would that person change my life or my organization? And ladies and gentlemen, write this down. If you visualize what they look like, sound like, and act like, when you run into them, you'll recognize them. If you want to fall in love and find your person, if you want to hire that life-changing person that's going to help you build an empire, you have to imagine and visualize what they look, sound, and act like. Otherwise, they're going to walk right by you and you're not going to recognize them. The love of your life is walking by you every single day and you're letting them walk by because you haven't taken the time to visualize what they would look like, right? But when you do, you're like, hey, wait a second. We should get a coffee or something, right? We should get into business together. What are you thinking, Chris?
Well, I think that clearly works across all sort of pillars of our lives, right? And where I think where we fail in business is we just, like you said, don't know what winning looks like for that day, or we don't have someone in our world that is holding us accountable to winning. You know, I'll share with this group that one of the things that you and I do almost daily, truly, is right. We'll text at the end of the day. We live in different cities, but we're working and building a business together. And we will text and say, hey, did you win today? Right? What did you win at today? What were your wins today? Which means it sets this mindset and focus that we better have won individually on something, because collectively, right, that win gets bigger. But if we don't have those people there checking in and asking, hey, what are you winning at? Well, then it doesn't force us to go and figure out how we win. And that's where agents are 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 11 years, 21 years into this industry. And their life looks the same on year 7 or 12 or 15 as it did on month 6. I always say that 6 months into this industry, you know what your ceiling of achievement is. You could do that every year for the rest of your life. And some of us say, well, I'm good there, but that's only because they didn't say, well, what would winning really look like? Or what is winning defined by me? Having that individual that checks in, right? Having that's what partnership is about. Having that partner that says, hey, are you winning? What does that look like? Where did you win? And that also gets me to realize, gosh, I think I lost all day today, right? Because I defined winning yesterday and I didn't get that done. And nobody wants to lose for long periods of time.
Yeah, I take that to kind of a really high level. In my phone, I have a list that says like what I want in a partner in kind of my honey bunny. I have a list in my phone that says, what do I want in life? I have an org chart that I write out, Chris, that has my name in every role, because when you don't have somebody there, you are actually doing that role. And I know what type of roles I'm looking for in the future. But let me give you another example of visualizing. And this is probably relevant to everybody on the call. When I'm negotiating a deal, trying to get an offer accepted for a buyer or seller, or buying a business or buying real estate or whatever we're doing, I visualize what winning would look like. Tomorrow, what does a win look like? What concessions would I or my clients need to make? And what would a win-win look like? And at what point should we walk away from a deal? And this is really important, because I'm not an agent that's thinking about doing one deal. I'm an agent that's thinking about doing a lifetime of deals. And because of that, you can't use aggression or hostility or win-lose with other agents in the community, because then you'll never have a chance to get an offer accepted. Everything that you do affects your future relationship with these people, right? I can't go steal a property from somebody. I'll get a reputation in town of somebody that has no integrity, and then I'll never be able to do another deal. I'm trying to do a lifetime of deals, so I have to have clarity of what win-win looks like, and what concessions I'm willing to make, and at what point it's not a deal for me and I need to walk away. Something for you all to think about. What are you doing to make sure that you have a lifetime of opportunities, not just one single win? How we treat people today matters, and what we do today matters. If I have a problem in my life, Chris, I visualize tomorrow what I'd have to do to make that go away. Finishing my taxes, doing whatever things that I have to do. I visualize, how do I move past it quickly? Because a burden or a problem or an employee issue or a fight with a spouse or a family member or a child, it eats at your heart and soul for days and days and days, and it steals from your life and your productivity. So your job tomorrow is to remove it. If I can't remove something, I visualize how I can put it on a shelf tomorrow and not think about it, so I can stay focused on what matters today. Like at the start of COVID, when we were all very worried about businesses and the health of our friends and families, I got an IRS audit for 2 years. In the middle of having to do webinars and doing the things and just running the businesses and making expense cuts and just trying to protect everything, I get this freaking IRS audit. What kind of jerk send a freaking IRS audit in the middle of a pandemic, right? And it wasn't just one, it was a 2-year full business and personal audit. Funny enough, it just completed, and Chris, here's the reason. My donations to charities were out of proportion to my income, meaning that I gave so much money to this nonprofit last year that helps homelessness and hunger for children mostly, that it triggered an audit. of all the ironic things in the world. Well, anyway, the audit got concluded, but I worried about it. But I had to put that aside for a couple of days so that I could focus on just keeping everything moving forward. So your step one is visualize what does winning look tomorrow, not a task list. Just ask yourself, how do I high five somebody at the end of the day tomorrow? What would I have to do? And when I started real estate, Chris, it was get one appointment. I knew that if I got one appointment every single day, by the end of the day, I would have won. And if I didn't get an appointment, I didn't win. So for my first couple years of real estate, literally 2 or 3 years straight, it was, how do I get one appointment every day? What was cool is by year 3, I wasn't getting one appointment a day. I was getting 2, because all of the work from the previous year had compounded. By that year, I went on, I think my 3rd or 4th year, Chris, I went on 240 listing appointments that year, and I listed 217. And it wasn't what I did that year that had that happen. It was the compounding calls and the getting appointments from the previous 2 years that led to my success 3 years later. Most people are not patient enough or visualize winning long enough that they're willing to wait till those results come. So that was step 1. Any questions or comments about that, or ready for step 2?
The only thing I'll add, Ben, is I think that your previous history of all that rejection, which you brought up earlier, allowed that patience to build. Some of us have not experienced that. We showed up and gosh, the silver spoon's in your left hand. And the problem with that is, especially right now, we don't enter this industry being willing to be patient, or we expect things to happen way faster. And year 3 would have never happened unless you were willing to compound your activity, compound your relationships with the people that you met in that activity, and compound your patience over the first 2 years. So step 2.
Yeah. Stacy, by the way, you're right. That's how you crush cancer. Visualizing being healthy and what the rest of your life looks like, and focusing on getting that out and moving forward. You're a beautiful and strong person. Thank you for sharing that. Step 2 is I clear my calendar, and I call it the calendar cleanse. And nobody will teach you better ways to do this than Chris, because he taught me. And I call it, it's just, I take a few minutes, I open up my phone and I review my calendar for the next day. And I see what on there that I can cancel, reschedule, or reduce. What is on there that's not important to me that I don't really need to do? What is it on there that is kind of important, but it doesn't have to happen tomorrow? I can reschedule it for a couple weeks out. Or what can I reduce down to a 15-minute call instead of a 1-hour lunch? What did Naval say about coffee? Do you remember that? Something about you should be too busy to have coffee with someone, but have a lot of white space on your calendar. He said it like very beautifully, because Naval's smart like that. That was my horrible version. Anyway, if you don't create room on your calendar, you're not going to be able to do any of the things we're talking about. You're not going to have that room for that hour. I try to commit to having 50% of my calendar open every day to work on my priorities and to move the business forward. If you don't do that, what you're actually doing is you're working on everybody else's priorities other than yours. And it feels good in the short term because you spent the whole day helping people, but you didn't help move yourself forward. You didn't help move your business forward, right? You're going to title lunches and other meetings and things that don't actually matter, instead of doing the one thing that does matter, which is get that hot person hired, or get that next listing, or get that next buyer. So step 2 is to cleanse your calendar and make room tomorrow for what's important. Because the 3rd step, Chris, is to create a priority list. And the way that we do that is I take a blank piece of paper, Sharpie, and I put it in a Sharpie, and I put it down in front of myself, and I just brain dump all the things that I need to get done tomorrow that will make a difference. Now, my mind isn't so smart that they come out in the right order, so I don't put them in order. I dump everything that if I got done tomorrow, I feel like I would win, and I just dump it out. I make a list of the most important things. And then I ask myself one question. If I only have time tomorrow to do one thing, Chris, what would it be? And I put a number 1 by it. If I only have time to do 2 things tomorrow, right, I put a number 2 by the number 2, and then number 3. And sometimes I go a little further. But here's the reality. Very rarely do we get more than 2 or 3 things done that are actually truly important? Truly important. I'm not talking about like text John or turn this file in. I'm talking about truly get an appointment, right? Get an interview, do something that's really important. You don't get more than 2 or 3 things done. So everything after that, I cross out and I either delegate it to a virtual assistant or an admin or a buyer's agent, or I just admit to myself that I'm not going to do it. How many people on the call have had a to-do list with the same 4 or 5 things on it for the last month, 3 months, year, 5 years, or whatever? You just never get to it. Cross it out. It feels awesome. So you make a priority list by brain dumping them, ranking them, and crossing out and delegating everything that's not important. So that's step 3, Chris.
The challenge shows up then is some of us have done step 2 without doing step 1, right? So like, okay, I'm going to clear my calendar. And then what happens is we don't know how we're going to win. We didn't say what it's going to take to win. So in that empty space, we feel lost. We feel inefficient. We feel like we're wasting time. We don't feel successful, and we fill it back up with stuff to do. So you can't grab step 2 without having accomplished step 1. In fact, you can't even do step 3 if you didn't get to step 1 and step 2. So, this plan that you're rolling out for people to follow, you have to do it all. Like, you have to do each one of these. You can't pick and choose which ones you want to do.
Yeah. And I'm probably 4 to 8 minutes into this exercise. I'm in a quiet spot in my house. I could be at the office before I leave if you want to do it that way. I'm only 4 to 8 minutes. I'm not asking for a lot. This is just quiet time. There's no kids climbing around or dogs or TV on. This is just me giving myself my 15 minutes. Well, the next step is I plan my rituals. And I was introduced to this idea of rituals from Chris, from an article that Chris sent me. And we're not talking about killing chickens or anything like that. Like, not those types of rituals. We're talking about, when am I going to exercise tomorrow? Even if it's a 15-minute walk, I write it down. What am I going to drink tomorrow? Hydrate. Do I have water in my car, in my office, in my house? What are my snacks? What am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to learn and read to? What's my learning plan for tomorrow? I'm thinking about what podcast or what book or what am I trying to finish? And then who am I going to reach out tomorrow to just to say, hey, I care. What are you doing? I call that my connect time. And that's not business related necessarily. It could be a past client, but it could just be friends or coworkers or employees or partners or vendors. I just want to reach out with no agenda and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. And then when can I have some quiet time just to take a break, a mental break? And I try to schedule 15-minute breaks every hour and a half to 2 hours. It was something that Chris taught me, because most of us can't work for 60 to 90 minutes without a break. When you try to work for 3 hours, you're not as productive as if you simply worked for an hour or hour and a half fully focused. So I build in the breaks, because the next step, we're at step 5, is to schedule it. I open back up my phone and my calendar, and I block 3 things. My 60 minutes. What is the 60 minutes that I'm going to work on the most important thing tomorrow, uninterrupted, with nobody bothering me, to work on winning? Just 60 minutes. Because if I can't do 60 minutes, I can't do 2 hours. Some days I work 60 minutes and I'm jacked up and I spend double or triple the amount of time, Chris. I put my rituals and my breaks in there. I just put them in the calendar, right? And then I make room for any additional priorities on my calendar. I just put them in there. I'm actually putting appointments with myself in my calendar so I know what to do during that time. Now, the last step is simple. And I literally do this. I know it sounds silly. You guys are going to think I'm super weird, but I just make a commitment. I make a mental commitment that I'm going to follow this plan for one day, starting tomorrow. This is my plan for tomorrow. I'm going to stick to it. I even say it out loud. What that allows me to do, Chris, is I go to bed. I sleep well, knowing that I have a plan. And I launch in the morning. And I use the word launch, right? It's not a miracle morning. That's too cheesy for me. I launch in the morning with a plan. I spend 1 minute. I review my calendar on my phone. It has my priorities and what I'm going to do, or I review my priority list, and I start my day with purpose and priority. In the vast majority of time, I come home at the end of the day and I've accomplished something. It's the number one question that people ask me is, how do you get so much done? Because I run with Chris as partners. We have 50 sales teams. Like Chris, I have about 10 brokerages. I have 8 tech companies. We have title and escrow and mortgage. I have a lot of businesses and a lot of people that rely on me. If I don't come up with a plan to be productive, purposeful, and win, all those things fall apart. I'm going to let people down. So I have to have a simple plan. And literally the secret to the productivity and results that I've gotten is giving myself 15 minutes every night and committing to 1 hour to what's most important to me. So that's all I'm asking you all to try. What would it be like if you spent 1 hour a day for the next week working on what was most important, uninterrupted and focused, and you spent 15 minutes the night before walking through these couple steps so that you had a 174% chance of being more productive tomorrow? What do you all think about that? Jump in the chat box. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ahas and what you're thinking. But go ahead, Chris.
You know, I was just going to say, Ben, as we head towards the top of the hour and people sort of put responses in that chat.
Nobody yet, by the way. That was pretty unimpressive. They were like, you know what, screw this. I should have went to bold, or I should go to do something else. But no.
One of the things I want to come back to is if you know your goal is to win, and that winning is going to lead you to making, and in your world, making, and I believe it should be everyone's world, that making will bring you to that giving. You know, it's many of us listen to your podcast, Win, Make, Give, and it is your truly much of your life's work is in that podcast. So if you're not listening to it, everyone should. But that winning doesn't happen unless you roll out this plan, right? For you, and I know you well, if you don't execute this plan, and not everyone, right? You don't roll it out every day. Like there are days that things happen, right? I get that, you get that. But the majority of your days, you execute this plan as well as anybody I know, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Like as you go through those steps, it leads you to win. It allows you to make, and that making leads to giving. You're super passionate about the giving, and that forces you to execute that plan as well. Some of us just don't know what that end game is for us, right? They don't know what winning is going to lead to, and that's why they just don't show up. That's why they won't do this plan, Ben. That's why they say, hey, thanks so much. This was cool. Thanks for the hour. Got inspired. Like that. The purpose was not to have people in our community be inspired by someone that's successful. The purpose of this call is to have people in our community actually get a tactical step-by-step rhythm to accomplish anything that they want. So I just want to make that point, you know, that you know, I see that question, what's that podcast? It's Win, Make, Give. And the purpose of that title is to keep you focused, Ben, on what your goal is to help people win, to help people make so that they can give.
Yeah. I actually put the slide deck in chat that actually had my plan written out. And if you guys want to copy that and open it up in your computer, if you didn't like follow along, you don't have all the notes, or it was kind of confusing, it's a little bit of a roadmap for you. So that's kind of my gift to each one of you all, if you choose to use it. And yes, Audrey, Bolds tomorrow, we all need to go to it. We've all taken it a lot of times, and it helps because it's a plan, it's a system, it's a model, and it forces us to do things we don't normally do without that level of accountability. And I think that's kind of the secret. How do we create, like bowling, Chris? If I wanted to get a lot of strikes at bowling, I would take the little kids' bumpers and I'd put them in the gutters so that I didn't go in the gutter anymore. And that's what models and systems and classes and training and having a coach and a mentor, that's what it does, is it creates bumpers on your life so all your energy just moves forward.
Awesome. Ben, we appreciate your time. And always being willing to invest in just their industry and real estate agents. We appreciate, you know, through us, your partnership, even within our brokerages, and your influence here as well. We've felt it and see it. And so just wanted to say thank you for your time. Thank you for pouring into our agents. Guys, we'll get those slides put in a format that that you can work off of that plan and build that plan out. We'll get that email out by the end of the day, like we always do. Ben, just thank you.
Yeah, I put my cell phone number in there. You guys can send me a Facebook message or a text. If you try the plan out and you do it for a week, send me a text and let me know how it helps. Are you more productive or less productive? Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? And you may need to tailor it. It's my plan. It wasn't made for the world, but I've given it to a lot of people and help change a lot of lives by just implementing simple systems. So the text is in the chat if you guys want to do that, or send me a message on Facebook. I'm very approachable and very reachable, and I will do my best to respond to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks,
You guys. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us for our Master Series event. Looking forward to the next one. And as always, you know where I am. If you need me, shoot me a message, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email. We're here to help you. Leslie, thanks for your support in getting everything lined up and rolled out. Anything that you need to say to the group before we hop off?
No, I went ahead and put it in the chat box as well. Save the date. Our final Master Series of the year is Dick Dillingham on November 18th. Watch your inbox for that registration link. And yes, Chris, we will have all the links and information in our daily or our wrap-up email this afternoon. So thank you all for joining us and have a powerful day.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you having me.